Ladies and gentlemen, grab your gloves and get your compost ready. Stepping into the ring is the perennial powerhouse, the sultan of soil, the beast of the beds, where permaculture reigns, food grows wild, community roots run deep, and yes, the garden punts hit hard. Freedom starts in the soil. This is the Guerrilla Gardening Show.
Welcome back to the Guerrilla Gardening Show. I'm Mike with Mike's in the Garden. Back as always with Sam from Central Florida Abundance.
What's
And
going on, y'all?
we have a very special guest today, friends of ours, Mr. Pablo from EcoHustle. What's happening, Pablo?
What's up, y'all? Thanks for having me tonight. Excited to
Thank-
share with you guys about vermicomposting.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. We were talking about it last episode for us, I think, and we really just wanted to get some more information on it. I know Mike's starting his worm composting. I'm always talking about having worms. Someday it'll happen, and maybe from this you'll inspire me and maybe some of the viewers out there to start their own worm farms.
Real quick, Pablo, why don't you introduce yourself, tell everybody where they can find you, and just give a brief explanation about what we're going to talk about today.
Cool. Yeah, Pablo. I'm located here in Central Florida, Auburndale. I have a little side hustle business that I call EcoHustle. Been doing that since 2023. Today we're going to be talking about vermicomposting, what that is, different types of systems. And I'm hoping to just give some really good tips to, help people navigate how to gain the most from doing it. Because it's work, but if you do it, if you maintain it and manage it the right way, you can flex. You can flex some weight.
I gotta ask you this, Pablo, before we get started. Why did you have a vermicomposting setup? What made you want that in your house?
That's a great question. I didn't have space to garden or per se. Like I made some excuses, but my excuses didn't stop me. I was like, okay, where should I start? Or what should I do since I don't have the space? I And so I decided, why not start composting? I think that's a great place to start. I think that's a great place for people to start in general, when it comes to gardening and what have you. So short answer is, I needed to do something. I had that itch. I wanted to get into gardening. Like I said, I didn't have the space per se, but I just got into composting as a place to start.
Yeah, and your compost has been great. It's fueled my gardens, that's for sure.
So we have episodes, Pablo, a presentation you've done on bokashi compost. Today we're going to focus on vermicompost worms, correct?
That is correct. And they kind of, at least my system, they kind of intertwine.
Okay.
It's a good companion system. So, yes, today the highlight is going to be vermicomposting, but they're pretty much synergistic in my system at the very least.
That's what we
Well,
like to hear.
I can already foresee you coming back and talking about some bokashi compost as well, because when you did the presentation at my house and we put some bokashi down, I mean, my watermelons, I don't think were ever happier than they were sitting in
Yeah,
that
they went
bokashi
crazy.
bed. So,
I'm happy to hear that. And actually, I got a flex. I got a little flex for y'all. Like when I first started vermicompost, when I really got into it, I calculated or I recorded that I was able to um, convert, or I was able to harvest about 400 pounds of worm castings, which is the worm poop. And we're going to talk about
How
man,
that a little bit
in like what span of
in
time?
like a year and a half, which is
Wow,
crazy. I
whoa.
that is
mean,
a lot.
it's pretty nuts to say that. But since I've been doing bokashi,
I don't
um,
think I could poop 400 pounds in a year and a half. So,
You're not
lies,
eating enough fiber.
right? But since I've been doing bokashi, I've been able to like, how do I say this? Not make compost, but like harvest or harness 17 or 1,755 pounds of organic material. Like I've been able to save that, reclaim
That's
that.
that's trash that would normally
That's
go to a
trash. That's
landfill.
mm-hmm.
1,700 pounds.
1,700,
Wow.
and that's in 2 years, or yeah, it'd be 2 years. So Bukashi is definitely heavyweight when it comes to pumping out or reclaiming organic material, food
Yeah,
waste.
because it's all just gone back into the soil, like through
Exactly.
my gardens and on your gardens
Yeah,
now, other places,
for sure.
been used to grow food. Isn't that, we don't have to just throw that stuff away. It can be useful.
Exactly. So yeah, that's my flex for today. Some people flex certain things. I'm flexing weight.
Nice.
Hey,
755.
So,
Yeah.
show us how we can use worms, because I'm sure the vermicomposting systems are also a useful way of processing, organic waste from your home, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, the vermicomposting is going to give you the superior product. Bukashi is going to really just help you like harness all of that. So like it's a little slower. Vermicomposting is a little slower way of composting. Um, Bukashi is you're fermenting your food waste. For those who don't know, Bukashi is just a way to ferment your food waste. So the Bokashi way is a really quick, simple, easy way to get into it. Vermicomposting, you're taking it up a notch and you're really making some superior um, living soil.
okay. So this is my maybe step two for people who want to put a little bit more work in, but get a lot more value back
For
out from
sure.
that work.
Yeah, that's well said. Like you could start with Bokashi just to like get the ball rolling and then jump into vermicomposting right after. So yeah, that's kind of how I would recommend because it's a easier digestible thing, user-friendly way to get into composting. Vermicomposting, it's management. It's not crazy work, but it's work and
We like that word here, management. That's important.
management is important. 400 pounds. If you're gonna pump out 400 pounds, is management. You know what I'm saying? You gotta really, do things a certain way. Feedstock, all that stuff has to be like that video I showed you, Mike. I was able to pump out, I think it was like almost 80 pounds in 2 months, which is crazy. Like
You're
that's
going to show us all that video later, right?
oh for sure, yeah, yeah. I'm
Yeah.
gonna share that.
yeah, let's bring up the slideshow here, and we're all good looking guys here, but I'm sure people want to see.
Give them something else to look at, some
Yeah, yeah,
information.
yeah,
That's what they come here
yeah.
for.
We're all good looking
But
guys. Let's look at some worm poop now.
hey, this looks great to
Right,
me.
yeah. You
Oof,
guys seeing it,
that's
right?
black gold, yo.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is what my system looked like. The worm part of it right now is out of commission, just for a little bit, but I definitely have plans on jumping back into it. But this is what our system looks like. This is what it looked like when we were pumping out, that 400 pounds I was talking about. It's just some raised
Just
beds
these
that,
two bins.
yeah,
Wow.
those two bins. So those two bins was pumping out about, let's say, anywhere between like 70 and 100 pounds every 3 to 6 months. 2 months was the last harvest. That was actually the last harvest I did, that 2 months one. And that's because Bukashi is it's a hot composting method. You could, let's say, so once you add Bukashi into your worm bin, in the summer, it's going to heat it up.
Hmm.
There's going to be a lot of activity. So that was my last harvest because I literally cooked my worms. Um, and it was a summer rotation. So in the winter, here's a little tip for people. We'll start with that tip right there. In the winter, worms are temperamental. They like a certain range. Between like 60 to 80 is the sweet spot where they like to be. So in the winter, when it drops below that, if you add more
The
like
the
feedstock,
winter here in Central Florida, just to clarify. In other
correct,
places, when you
correct.
get real cold and
Yeah.
you have real
40-degree
winter,
winters.
for
Yeah.
sure.
But
Yes.
those worms are real sensitive to those temperatures, right?
So if you want to warm up the temperature in their home, add more feedstock, add more organic material or
Then you add the
bokashi.
bokashi.
Then you
Yeah.
add the bokashi. In the summer, you probably want to ease up off of it, but it'll heat it up. So yeah, this is our worm bins. We were feeding our worms the bokashi, and I mean, look at that. The soil you see in those bins right there is black. Like that was probably ready to harvest at that point. Really good stuff. And my feedstock was normally like bokashi and just shredded paper and like leaves and stuff like that. So that originally was like leaves
Wow.
and it turned into soil. Like them,
Okay, so
them
Pablo, I have a yeah, all right. I gotta have a worm farm, so I got a couple questions here. I have the three-tiered the worm bins
okay.
and the bottom that catches the leachate. So what I'm looking at here, it looks like I see a temperature gauge in the left corner there. This looks like a barrel that's been cut in half,
Precise.
and one side looks like it can. Okay, so I'm noticing on the right side, it looks a little different, almost like it can come out. You can pull that out. Like where I see the wood two by fours on the
Yeah.
right side, is that like screwed into like a panel that can be pulled out?
Yeah, so like the way I designed actually the this raised bed was for it was a gardening project. So I had like plants growing in there. And then
Okay.
I decided this would be a perfect container for the worms because I have it on wheels. So I'm able to move it. And honestly, this is my favorite setup. Great setup. I know exactly this setup right here was pumping me out, like I said, almost 100 pounds in that span of time. So I know what I'm getting out of that setup. So that's what I really liked about it. It was quantifiable. I was able to move it. I don't have to be bending down or anything. It was really great for maintenance and just for overall experience with it.
They
So
look so clean, really. I
yeah,
mean,
For sure.
considering what goes into them all the time.
yeah. I mean, we've had some horror shows where like we would walk in the lanai one day and there's like worms everywhere, like all over the floor.
On the
It's
ground?
something.
Oh my God.
Yeah, yeah, it's
That's the
pretty
horror
wild.
story.
That's the horror story, which is there, you know what I mean? Like I said, they're sensitive, so you gotta really look out for them because they're doing a lot of work. In these two bins, I was able to house about 12,000 worms,
Whoa.
Wow.
about 12,000, so 6,000 in each. The calculation for how many worms. So worms regulate their own population. So there is going to be only a certain amount of worms in your container. After, so if you were to put more than, the amount that can be in there, they'll literally just start
Eating each
exiting.
other?
Mm-mm.
Oh,
I'm
the
not sure if they
exit.
would probably,
Okay.
but yeah, they would
They
just like
they
bounce.
eat the eggs though, don't they?
Yeah, I've seen them. I've seen
Yeah.
them like eat each other and stuff like that. Like eat like decomposing ones.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's like 1,000 worms per square foot. So like the calculations,
Okay.
I didn't count every worm, but I had it for enough time that I was like, all right, during this span of time, I had about 12,000.
But
Um,
that's a good thought. So 1,000 per square foot. So if you're buying worms for your container, you really want to start, right around that number,
mhm.
and certainly not exceeding it by much, so you don't
Right,
get
like
that mass exit.
yeah, don't think that you're gonna do more by getting more worms. You really need to calculate it because then they're gonna bounce. They're
So
not
what
gonna
are these like a 3 by 2?
3 by 2 the bin.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
dimensions
Oh
of it.
yeah, it's about yeah, exactly. It's about
Okay.
3 by 2. Yep.
What do you have on top here? Is it a piece of carpet?
Great question. No, I have this like plastic. You know the plastic you put like in your what do you call it? Pantry or something like that to stop things from moving around.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Like I
Like a
bought like
sleep
a
mat?
roll of that. Yeah, so the great thing about that is in the summer, your bin is going to dry up. So that I would keep that plastic on there to keep the moisture level.
Moisture.
Yeah,
Nice.
so like I really geeked out. Like I had it down to like a science, you know. As
Do you
far as
prefer that over like carpet?
you could use carpet, I guess, but it's just worked for me. It just
Yeah,
worked. You know
easy
what
to
I'm saying?
get.
I was easy to take it out, wash it off, when I needed to, and yeah, it just worked out.
Now, I know where I've seen these bins in person, but maybe for everybody else, tell us like where these are in your home, you know,
Hmm.
uh
That was in the Lanai. I'm not there anymore, but yeah, you could keep it anywhere. You could keep worms pretty much indoors or outdoor. Especially here in Florida, it really works well. I kept it in the Lanai. I think I had to move them one time into like our garage during like a really cold snap. Um,
okay.
so it's good to like have a system that you can kind of move that's portable. So that's another thing to think about, like when things do go awry and like weather does go crazy, you don't want something too heavy where you can't move it. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that's the advantage of this system here. It was portable. Um, and
Is it
yeah.
ideal to have it in a protected space, like rather than just like out in the yard?
At least some shade. Some
Okay,
shade. You definitely want to
shady
keep it.
spot.
Yeah, you want to keep it away from like rain. So if this were to be outside, I'd have like a lid on it. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And in a shaded area. But
Because you want
for
to control the moisture.
exactly. Yep.
So I see a watering can down there. How do you determine when it needs water? What do you look for to determine if it's dry or too moist?
Good question. I mean, it's the same way like, with your plants, you want to get in there, just kind of squish test, squeeze test. So yeah, you just with the maintenance comes like I literally had a log sheet. So you couldn't get me out of my worm bins. I was constantly in there. So yeah, you just want to monitor it. Every so often you get in there, every couple days you'll go and just check the water levels, temperature levels, and all that jazz. But yeah, you would go in there every so often and just give it a squish test. If it holds, then the moisture is pretty good. So you don't want to wet it too much. And these bins, the other thing with what I liked about this system, I had holes on it. So some people have like drainage holes for the worms, which is good, just in case you add too much water because they will drown. Worms breathe through their skin, so you don't want to
Mm,
add too much moisture. Um, but I didn't want drainage in this. I had a good like feeling for it where I knew exactly how much water I had in it. The reason I took the drainage holes out besides the worms like coming out, I'm trying to remember why I took the drainage out. I think originally I was collecting the tea, but I didn't care for that anymore. It was just kind of slowing down my process. So I had it in a way where I knew exactly how much water I needed. Or if I added too much water, I would add like some, some dry food. I'll add like eggshells or something like that to kind of soak it up. So I wouldn't go too heavy-handed with the water. I knew exactly like how much to pour in there.
okay. And you'd go for like dry food over adding like dry newspaper, like shredded newspaper or cardboard, like, you
Yeah.
know. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
'cause, I mean, there's many ways you could go about this. I was really trying to pump out. I was trying to get the most bang for my buck. So I only fed my worms, believe it or not, in this system, I fed them one time. So in a
Over a
six
year and
month
a half?
span, yeah, no, no. So in a
A 1 month period?
yeah,
Oh,
in
the
the period, in
harvest.
the harvesting period, I only
Okay.
That's
gave
like
them
that
one.
3 month,
Yeah, so in
like,
3 months, when I say I only fed them, I mean I gave them one feedstock, and in that 3 month period, let's just use 3 months. In that time, I had that one feedstock. That's it.
wow.
I would give them a maintenance feeding, because my thing was I want to get this turned into castings as fast as possible. So I didn't want to keep adding different food and all type of stuff. I wanted one feeding and I knew, all right, the clock starts now. They're gonna convert this in 3 months. And I'm not adding more. I'm giving them, and you can do that depending. Like I said, there's different ways. I just figured this worked the best for me. So I would give it one feedstock. And that's what messed me up. That was my downfall in the end as well, because that one feedstock was literally, I don't know, 10 pounds of Bukashi, so I ended up tweaking it and noticing like, oh, this was a problem. I can't do that. Or, here's another thing that happened with Bukashi too. So like the acidity levels, worms don't really like too low acidity, and Bukashi has a little bit like higher acidity. So I would put it through what they call what is it called? A soil factory. So I would take soil, Bukashi, leave it together for like a month and like lower the acidity levels with that. But we live in Florida. I had that outside. Ants would get in there, different insects and stuff would get in there. So I would introduce those insects into my bin. And that was another issue I had. So like
Mm.
in that year and a half, like I was working out kinks. I was seeing like, okay, I don't want to introduce insects into you want to keep this thing as like controlled as possible. And you don't have to, like you could just let it be. Worms will be totally fine if they're like, you could keep them outside and things will come in and they'll kind of regulate themselves. But if you want to churn out castings, you want to keep everything controlled and everything streamlined. And that's how I try to keep this system. So it all depends on how crazy you want to get into it. If you wanna pump out 100 pounds, then you gotta keep things quality controlled.
Yeah,
You
I
guys want to go
feel
to the
You
next
want
slide?
I
you want
feel
to cut there,
what's that?
Mike?
Yeah, we can
We're like,
yeah, we got 6 minutes left, but Pablo, if somebody wants like blueprints on how to build this, I'm assuming you've got
I got
uh
a video actually. You could just
okay.
okay.
I got a video where I built that.
Well, I'm going to suggest that you can reach out to Pablo on Instagram,
Yep.
eco.hustle. We're going to have those links down below. Reach out to Pablo and he'll provide you with all the information possible. So, I think we
Well,
all know the guys from Save Our Soil when they were around. They
yeah.
did, a large scale operation like this. And I met a woman from Texas that seems to have a similar operation as they do or did. And she said she would take, like the cardboard packing paper you'd get from Amazon. She
Yeah.
would crumple that up in a ball and stick that in and use that as like her moisture absorber if it was too wet. But she would also put that in there, and it was a way for her to kind of determine and regulate like how moist it was. Because mine, we should have done my video first because now this is like, because mine is like the set it and forget it worms. Like I got tiny little ants in there and I'll go out there and be like, oh yeah, I forgot about these guys. But
And they'll be fine. Like you
they're
could
fine. Yeah,
totally
they're
do
fine.
that.
And you know what really this is, after listening to this, you're like the Walter White of vermicompost. So
Yeah, you've got the perfect
this
casting.
is the Breaking Bad version of
Keep this though. Keep this. What's crazy is my mentor, like the lady that was like put me on. The first harvest that I had, she came to my house and I was like, "Yo, I'm ready." I didn't even know I was ready actually. She came to my crib and she was just looking at the stuff and she's like, "Pablo, first of all, this is ready to harvest. Like you got to get this out now." And she's like, "Second of all, this is probably some of the best castings I've seen. This is
nice.
Hey,
really
nice.
dope. This is really rich." She's like, "I'm jealous," and I was like, "Oh, damn, okay, like that's cool." And one of the reasons is because I left it for longer than it needed to be. So
Mm.
it was like they got it down to the finest castings. You know what I'm saying? So that was a proud moment for me. I was like, okay, cool.
Do you got
Um,
more slides in this show?
Yeah, yeah, I got
Yeah,
like,
let's before we go to that next slide, because we might as well stop it here and then we can just pick up with the next slide. But real quick, Pablo, like, do you know how many pounds of material you put in for them to consume for this size? Because I'm thinking about what I put in my little tiny worm bin, and this is probably 3 or 4 times the size of each one of those trays.
yeah.
So considering how meticulous you are with your notes, do you know like exactly how much you put in for feed to start with?
Yeah, it was roughly like 10. Well, when I was doing Bukashi, it was 10 pounds.
Okay,
It was 2.5. I'm sorry, 10 gallons. My bad.
10
10.
gallons.
Yeah, so it'll be
To
you
two
do the
5-gallon buckets.
yeah, so
That's
it'll be
probably closer to like
that's
60 to 80 pounds.
yeah. You know what? Let me.
And
Um,
did you start with any soil, or was it just like a bed of you know,
it
shredded paper and the worms?
so the I did different ones. Like um, I think going forward, or like the best way is to start with like something like mulch or just straight paper. You
Like
know what I
wood
mean?
chips?
Yeah, wood chips or keep it like I try to keep it to um
Type of
one
material.
feedstock. Yeah. So
Okay.
like I was doing just Bukashi. That kind of didn't work. Then I got into Soil Factory because I figured that, regulated the acidity levels better. So then I did that. But I tried to keep the feedstock pretty uniform. You know what I mean? Because I know it's going to break down the same way and all that jazz. You know what I'm saying? And I really should have started with this slide, but I'll go over real quick. I've been composting for 4 years. I started in 2022. Sam actually helped me build that tumbler compost.
Nice.
I would say I remember that thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's the best style of tumbler. If you're gonna have a
It was,
tumbler, it has to be able to actually flip.
yeah, it was really cool actually. I really liked it aesthetically. It looked nice too. Um, and so then I graduated to worm bin, 5 gallon worm bin. After that is when I decided to use our garden planters or raised bed planters, and use that um, as our worm factory. And then in fall of 2023, I started integrating Bukashi composting into our worms, and it just became um, a really great system, companion system. Let's jump to the next. So this was actually this tracker here was I was tracking this since August, or back in August 2023. I was able to convert 285 pounds of castings out of the organic material. So this is old flex right there. We're on to bigger things. This is what the gold looks like. This is what the black gold looks like. I mean, this
Yeah.
is the best stuff that you can give your plants in your garden.
Yeah, you
That's
gotta
one
start making
harvest.
that stuff again.
I'm definitely gonna jump back into it. That was one harvest, 98 pounds. I mean, that's ridiculous, and it was just really good stuff.
Real
Uh,
quick, you made these little buckets into worm bins?
no,
Like an
no, the
okay.
first bucket I had was one of these. The first worm bin I
Was
had,
one of these things?
yeah, it was just one of those.
And was that the same kind of system? Like you were just
No,
layering.
I actually had a upward migration, like a layered thing, like you have, Mike.
Oh, okay, like Mike's.
Yeah, and then I was just like, nah, let's go big. Like, let's do this for real. Um, let me actually jump to another one. Let's get to this one right here. Um, so vermicomposting, you're composting with worms. Now here's a little fact. There's about like 7,000 different types of worms, just in general. But there's only seven actual like composting worms, or seven worms that are actually good for composting.
Hmm.
So, and
Not earthworms, right?
not earthworms.
Okay.
So earthworms, not the composting worms aren't the earthworms, but there's about 7,000 different types, species of worms. But
Hmm.
there's four types that are really good, especially here in Florida. You have your red wigglers, which is the ones I used. I used that a lot. Yeah, red wigglers, Indian blues. They tolerate warmer temperatures, so they were like those are really the ones I recommend. European and African night crawlers, they tolerate cooler temperatures. So if you really want a good, like complete system, I recommend getting all of these because actually the red wigglers I think are top feeders, and the European and African night crawlers are bottom feeders. So if you have both of these, you're gonna get a really good like uh just they're gonna be able to like go through everything through all the layers of your system.
Be
So they
more
can be
thorough.
integrated into the same system.
Right, yeah, they not they'll be fine. They'll play fine with each other. They ain't setting
Okay.
no reps or or anything like that. You can integrate all of them together. It'll be fine.
Are
Um,
there other worms, like if for people in colder climates, that they would go for? Because there's three other ones. If we've got four here, are the other ones like cold climate composters?
these are the ones that I'm familiar with. These are the ones I used. I'm pretty sure I can't remember what like temperatures the European and African night crawlers go to, but those might be the ones. Uh,
Okay.
But yeah, here's a cool little thing that happened with the Indian blues. So Indian blues are great actually, and they're a beautiful worm. They have like this like kind of holographic like purple film to them. They're really cool looking worms. However, during during lightning or like a thunderstorm, they'll go crazy. Like they literally will bounce. And I've only experienced that with Indian blues. So they're a great composting worm, but the
Unless you live in a place that has a lot of lightning storms.
well, we're in Florida, so like
Yeah.
there are a lot of lightning storms. So like I
They
remember
just
one day
leave?
they just leave, and I had
Oh
to
my
do
God.
like I remember one time. I remember that time it happened. I was like, everything's good. I'm doing all my checks and balances. Like everything's good. There's no reason why they would go crazy. And then I was talking to another of my mentor, another person that does, worm farming, and he's like, "Hey, you told me you have Indian blues. He told me he was like, you told me you just got Indian blues. They don't like when the barometric like
The pressure, the
pressure
air
changes,
pressure.
the air pressure changes during like lightning storms." And he's like, "That's what happened. Your Indian blues were just escaping." I was like, "That makes sense because I never had that problem." So that's just a little, I took us on a little detour talking about Indian blues, but these are the four types of composting worms that like work, especially in our area. Let's jump to
Maybe avoid the Indian blues though, if you're here in Central Florida during the summer,
yeah, they
especially
are
if it's indoors.
they are a great worm. I'm not gonna lie. I can't remember all the like benefits. I think they pump out more castings or something like that.
Okay, there's a
There-
trade-off.
Yeah, there is that trade-off. Um, I wanted to look at so let's talk about the different methods of vermicomposting. So the one I'm showing you guys is the bin method, which is um depending on what type, but let's just say you just have a bin, just like a tote there. It's less effort to put together because it's just one, container, but it's more effort to harvest. And I say that because the other method of vermicomposting is the upward or lateral, what they call lateral flow method. And this is one that you have, Mike. It's more effort to put together unless you're purchasing one that is already pre-made. But it's said to be less effort to harvest, which I mean, in theory, it makes sense. Like the worms will pretty much after the first chamber is converted into worm castings, you set up the second chamber with, new bedding, new food, and the worms travel upward to harvest. Um, the bin method is the method that I like because you can scale that a little bigger. You could probably do that with the lateral flow as well, but I just don't have a lot of experience with that because the bin method just worked for me.
It'd
Um,
probably be more expensive to have a bigger, you know, staged flow or lateral flow container because of all the different pieces.
yeah,
Whereas a big bin is just,
whatever
whatever
size.
big container you can find.
Yeah, 5 gallon all the way. I mean, we had ours was 55 gallons cut in half, so 20 something, whatever it um, is what we had. Um,
Sometimes I go through my yard and I take out all my weeds, and that's what I stick in my
yeah.
worm bin.
How do you fill your bin, Mike? Like, are you starting at the bottom and then working your way up and then harvesting from the bottom, or like how does it work in your place?
Um, I'm definitely not as detailed as Pablo. I'm kind of more
Nobody
like
is. Nobody is.
I'm the Jesse Pinkman of this operation here, but yeah, I mean, really,
That's a
you
show I need
know,
to see.
the fellas had told me to just start with one bin, and then when that one gets filled up, to move to the next bin, and then they'll migrate to the second bin. Well, you know, I had so much food scraps and I had so many worms that I kind of filled two up. And then once the two started to get filled, they all kind of just started at the bottom, then worked their way up to the second. So I kind of have three bins going, and then I'll just take the one bin out. And when I have the castings, because mine's still very wet, so
Hmm.
the lateral flow method seems to get very warm and moist, especially I have mine in the garage, which right now it's a little bit cooler, but in the summertime it's a little bit warmer. I don't have the best ventilation in there. Um, but from my experience, I'll, and I don't think you're supposed to do this, but it's kind of worked. But I'll put food in there every couple days, banana peels, food scraps, and then I'll fill it up and leave it. But if it's only half a tray's worth of material, I'll make sure that I fill it up over the next couple days with food scraps and then move on to the next one. But I would say it takes at least 90 to 120 days before I could get a layer of, you know, material that's worth it.
I mean, that sounds about right. That's what you were like 3 months to process the scraps, but obviously it's not as much, as you would get. What do you think, Pablo?
Well, I had a thought that came to my mind. Another reason I do recommend like a deeper system, like either deeper or wider, is because that allows the worms to find a temperature that they like. When you have a smaller system, like the little three tiers, I recommend starting with start with a 5, 10 gallon tote, you know. Start with like a 10 gallon tote. Um, and that gives the worms enough space to like either, burrow lower if it's too cold, or, it allows the materials to soak up a little bit more water. So the more like space area the area that you have, I
And you want
feel
like
like,
depth, right?
yeah,
Like
you want
that's
a little bit depth.
important.
And the worms really only like hang out in the top like 6 inches. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Well, like I was saying with the red wigglers and whatnot, they really hang out up there. That's where
Six
they're.
inches, though. That's pretty big. I mean, most of the layered like flows. I mean, Mike, I don't know. I haven't seen yours, but
I
is a
don't think,
tray
yeah,
even
I
six
think
inches?
it's probably 5 to 6 inches deep. So
Yeah, and that's because that's where they really hang out. But if you have more depth, you have a little bit more temperature variations. Like I said, you have a little bit more uh, opportunity for the soil to or whatever the bedding material is to soak up the water and whatnot. And yeah, I think that just works with that with the spacing and whatnot. And we're talking about 3 months at the very least of like harvesting, right?
No matter what method you
No matter
use,
what method.
basically.
So like if you're about to wait 3 months, wouldn't you rather a 10 gallon tote rather than like a 6 inch small like cubicle thing? Like if you're gonna wait that amount of time, you might as well make it worth it. Like I've seen people harvest like like I don't know, a couple pounds out of that in 3 months, and I'm like, that's cute. That's real cute. You know what I'm saying?
I
Yeah, and I
will,
mean, it can still be useful.
No,
You
for
could
sure.
find like making vermicast extract, you could make those couple pounds go a lot farther, but
Oh, for sure.
definitely because for the same amount of work, if you've got the space and the materials, might as well get more out of your labor.
Yeah. And I think I have one more slide. And then, like, if you guys have any other questions, or maybe we could jump into that video. But we spoke a little bit about the byproducts already. The castings, you use that. That's the digested organic materials. You use that to feed your plants, and condition your soil. You can also use worm tea, which is you take the castings and you steep it almost like tea, basically like tea, in a aeration in a container for like 48 hours for like 2 days. Um, and that tea that you harvest from there, you can use as like a foliar feed, or you can use to feed your plants as well. You can also
Now
use
that's
the worms.
different than like the lychee, right? Like what you're talking about,
Yeah,
worm tea versus like the lychee that people will harvest from the bottom of their bins.
yeah. It's similar because you basically take that. It's similar but different. Like the lychee, you kind of take and you dilute both of them, but they're essentially almost the same thing, in a sense. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's the tea. You use the liquid version. So the worm tea or the lychee is just a liquid version of the material. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I've
And then
made
the
the
other
worm
thing,
tea and it's usually like aerobic. You're pumping air through water with the worm castings in the water. Uh,
right? Yeah, exactly. I love making worm tea. It's really fun. It smells really great too. It has like this like earthy.
I've been told you can drink it.
Hey, that's yeah, it's
That
probably
was old man
probiotic.
Steve.
I don't, I don't know about that, but possibly. I mean, I drink my EM. You know what I'm saying? I drink the EM stuff. So yeah, with caution for sure. Um,
Okay, okay.
Everything in moderation.
yes, yes. And then the other thing you can get from your system, the vermicompost system, is bait or feed worms. People grow. My mentor, that's what she did. She basically had a system just for bait worms. So you can use that. You could feed
That's
it
real
to
interesting. I wouldn't have
your
thought of
chickens.
that.
Yeah, and then you could feed it to your chickens, give them the extra protein, and then an additional income. I was selling the castings for about between like $3 and $6 a pound.
I bought them. I bought a
Imagine.
lot.
Yeah, you've definitely supported. Shout out to Sam. So yeah, you can, and they always. I never had castings for too long. I guess it depends on who you are in your circle and whatnot. But my castings once they were ready, I already had people buying them. So that's another thing. I've seen castings go for like $15 a pound too. So it's a really good additional income if that's something you want to get into. But those are the
So
byproducts.
I got a bunch of questions here, Pablo. Did you ever see the setup that the Save Our Soil guys had?
I have, yes. I
Okay.
saw a video that you did. Yeah, I remember that video.
Okay. Um,
For everybody else, essentially what we're talking about, they're long bins, kind of like
yeah,
what Pablo has, but they're, 20 feet long, made out of wood entirely.
yeah.
Uh,
Small
you
warehouse
know,
operation,
yeah,
but yeah, I mean, they had like a concrete tumbler for their, to separate some of the
sifting, yeah.
worms. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, that
Yeah,
was,
they're pushing weight. They're pushing real weight.
yeah, yeah. Well, I'm curious as an entrepreneur, um, what the temperature is in Polk County here or Central Florida for this type of product and service because it sounds like it's something that when educated people want.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I got into it, you know. Um, but obviously it takes time, takes space. There's a lot of those factors. The feedstock is a big thing too. So like if you like the other day I was thinking about the brewery. And they have all those grains that go out, and that could be a feedstock if you dry it, I would imagine, because the wet version,
Mm.
wet grains will probably heat up just the same way the bukashi would. So if you have like a feedstock that that's available, that's a really great place to start. Like a good quantity of similar, the same type of feed that you're gonna give. That way, everything's gonna be broken down the same time. You know what I'm saying? So you want like a similar feedstock. But yes, this is a great I this is a great uh entrepreneurial like uh income
So
revenue.
as far as like your startup costs for this business, obviously you need your space, kind of a protected, say, shaded space. Uh, you need bins. You're gonna have to build bins, but all of those things are one-time costs. It seems like the biggest reoccurring cost would be your bedding material.
Yeah, that's if yeah. Well, I guess it
Are
depends
there
what.
any other recurring costs that you would, have to? I mean, I remember the Save Our Soil guys, they had like bat guano and a lot of minerals that they would add into their beddings so
Yeah,
that,
diatomaceous earth and
yeah.
yep.
And
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's a bunch of other things and stuff that you could get. I was constantly making dry feed, and in my dry feed I had what like you said, I had diatomaceous, I had a bunch of different things. I call it my maintenance feed. So in the
mhm.
summer, instead of giving them food, I was just giving them a dry feed that just helped maintain the bin. Um,
And that was maybe twice during your 3-month cycle you were feeding, right? You said,
Oh no, I was feeding them probably weekly. The
oh,
dry feed.
okay.
I would every
Oh, okay.
like
And
whenever I did
what was your dry feed?
the dry feed was it was a mixture, a combination of diatomaceous earth, which helps it helps with different like pests, like pest deterrents. It also helps like dry up the bin a little bit if it's too wet. I put in eggshells, which is, so worms is another thing. Worms don't have teeth, so they use grit to break down the materials. Another thing, another fact too, is worms actually don't eat organic matter. They eat the bacteria. They eat broken down material. So the bacteria that's
Interesting.
actually happening is that's why you don't want to overfeed your worm bin because it takes, the worms are waiting for it to actually start breaking down and, you know, um,
Huh.
getting like they start eating the bacteria
So it
that
needs to be decomposing for them to even be
like
interested in it.
Like, yeah, exactly. So it takes a little bit of time for them to actually work through that material. That's why I got into Bokashi because it was already bacteria. It's a fungal rich, you know, uh, feedstock. So that's one of the reasons I did that. Um, where was I going from there? I forget where we were talking about.
Have you
Uh,
experimented at all, Pablo? I'm gonna talk. Hopefully you remember what you're but my worms every 90 days they lay eggs,
yeah,
and there's only so many worms that I can fit in my worm bin. So what I've been doing every 120 days or so is I see all the eggs. I try to put I probably only use like half the castings I have because it's so moist and there's worms still in that moist um, you know material. I'll take as many worms as I can out. I'll put a lot of it back in so that the eggs stay in there so that I can keep producing more worms. But then I'll go out into my garden and either bury worms or stick them in my compost bins, which I have the big, aerated geo bins, that you can fit cubic yards worth of material. And I'm curious if that's even doing anything, if you've ever experimented with anything like that.
what like worms
Yeah, like
leaving?
taking worms from your bins and putting them like outside into a compost bin.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't really experiment with that, but people do it all the time. Yeah,
Okay.
it's really fun. They'll
I've
be
definitely seen like putting worms into compost bins being like really successful, especially like slow, just like, pile systems. Uh, have you, I mean, how long have you been putting them in there?
I mean, I've probably been doing it the last 6 months, but that's maybe been 3 times in the last 6 months. So, um,
It
and
may take a
I,
little longer than that to see
yeah, and I mean,
results.
it's a huge bin, so I might put 5 or 10 into a giant compost bin. So, and I don't stir them up enough to be able to tell if it's really doing anything. That's why I was curious if it. What do you do with your eggs? Do you leave the eggs in there or?
That's a good, like, that was one of the hard things for me, to harvest the eggs. Like, because the sifter, so what you would do in my situation, like, you could have different sifters. So I had two different, like, what do you call it? Two different size of sifting trays. I didn't have a sifter small enough to catch the eggs. So in my situation, I just I
You
didn't
sold them
really.
all. They all went out with the
Yeah,
castings,
right.
right?
Yeah, you would see the eggs in the casting. So like people were getting, eggs in there. I just couldn't harvest them. And I really didn't, it didn't matter to me because in my situation, I got the worms. I know they're gonna do their thing. They reproduce every like 30 days or whatever it is. So I know I'm gonna get that back. But in the situation, you would have a a sifter that's small enough to catch the eggs.
Do the
And
worms like regulate their population at all? Like if there's too many, are they going to stop laying eggs?
yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
they regulate their population. Like I said, they say 1,000 worms per square foot because that's kind of they have their own, you know, system where once they max out, I think it's a thing about like not enough food and they'll just regulate it, you know. Um, so yeah.
Cool. Um, I mean, I guess we can get into this video unless we get anything else. Sam, you get any?
I feel like I could ask questions for days, but I really want to see this video. See,
Yeah,
it's a
the
video
video.
of harvesting or
Yeah, the video will definitely give you just an idea of what a harvest day would look like for us with this system. And just another thing I would like to say real quick before we jump into that, you can do any system works, start with whatever whether it's a 5 gallon or whatever, a 3 tier, like whatever you want to do, it'll work out fine. I'm just showing what's possible if you want to take it up a step, want to take it up a notch. So start wherever you are, experiment. And that in the time I was vermicomposting, I had a lot of setbacks, like you wouldn't even believe it. So just you got to keep experimenting. You got to keep trial and error. I'm sure you've been there too, Mike. Seeing things wet and all this stuff. Real quick, I would recommend. I don't know if y'all can see this. No.
not at all.
Okay. But the Worm Farmer's Handbook is a really great book if you really want to if you want to worm farm.
Not who wrote it?
This is by Rhonda Sherman.
The
Great book.
Worm Farmer's Handbook by Rhonda Sherman. All right.
It's a really good one. I highly recommend that one if you want everything condensed into one book. That's the book to get. Um, I learned a lot of good tips from there. But yeah, the video shows the harvesting technique and method and what have you. I can stop sharing.
That's pretty cool. I'm sure if anybody's made it this far in the video, they're definitely readers and they're going to want to pick this book up.
Yeah, they.
What would you say after you read this? You're good to start. You got all the information you need.
Oh, you got everything you need in that book for sure. That's a great book. I reference it a lot. Um, like like you guys are like I've been showing y'all. I get real organized and whatnot. So I have a binder, a manual that I like took different parts of that book just to make it even more easier for me to access stuff. So I had like a binder with log sheets with I had everything in there because there would be times where I just tell my kids or my wife, I'll be like, hey, you know, do this activity, and it'll have all the instructions in there. So I liked having that kind of like standard operation vibe to it.
If anybody wants you to come explain this to them in person, do you offer those services? Do you give in-person composting classes?
Um, You could DM me. You could definitely hit me up, find me, and I'm an open book. I love to share information. I have a lot of worksheets and information that I just, I want people to compost. So yeah, just
You're
reach
a
out.
man of the people. You're feeding the community.
We're doing it together.
I've got the shirt that says gardening is simply effing around and finding out. We'll have to make one that says vermicomposting is effing around and finding out.
Maybe
Oh,
just life is effing around and finding out.
for sure.
Sum it all up.
Very much so. Yep. Go up to a cop and say, "Hey, you work for me," and you'll quickly find out.
And you find out real quick.
All right. I've got the volume turned down on this video, Pablo. I see you're on mute. So, okay. Do we need audio for this one? Or are you just gonna
Not
do the
necessarily.
commentary?
I mean, the background music is pretty. It's a nice little tune, but you don't
You
have to.
guys can see this full screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
All
I
right.
mean, narrate it for us, Pablo. Tell us what's going on here.
Sure. Cool. So this is what a typical day looked like. It was fun. We always loved harvesting. It was just a really fun day. That
What
is our sifter. That's our sifter right there. We have a mortar tray. Was it 7 gallon? I don't remember how big it is, but uh, I built this sifter that t gets gathers all the material inside of it.
Yep. So we got our mortar tray on the left. That's our, little concrete mixing tray.
Yeah.
And then this is the two different size screens.
Well, actually, so it's two mortar trays. I have one on the left, one on the
Okay.
right. The one on the right is carrying
Oh,
the sifted material, right? The
Ah, I
fine
see.
material. The one on the
Okay.
left, I'm taking that sifter, the one on top, and I'm throwing the bulk material in the other one. So
and
I'm
this thing we're looking at here, this is one sifter, and then you built some sort of like overlay for the mortar
shout
tray.
out to, I think it's like Captain Jim. I don't remember his name, but he has like free PDF to build that stuff. So
Oh, blueprints.
he
Nice.
has like a blueprint to build that and best sifter.
Oh, so
Oh,
this thing's on wheels, the little casters that can
yeah,
slide back and forth. Okay.
it wheels. And
Wow.
then so before we had this sifter, man, it used to take us like I'm not lying, it was probably like 4 or 5 hours to go to sift 100 pounds. So when
Damn.
I got this, we did it in like 2 hours. It was amazing. We were like, oh yeah, wow, where was this all our life? So invest in a good sift. If you're going big, get a sifter like this. Because before that, we were just sifting with like with those
A kitchen sifters
yeah.
or something.
So um when we know we're about to harvest, we let our bins dry out for 2 weeks. For like a week or so. We just like stop feeding it, we stop wetting it, and it's about like a week. We let it just sit for a week so everything's dry so that when we go in there, it's not sticking to our sifter and whatnot. So give it a couple days or about a week to let your worm bin dry out so that you can sift. That's how we did it.
Okay.
This material here that we're looking at looks more rough than
Yeah,
the stuff we saw before.
yeah, all the stuff on top is the bulk stuff. So like if you were to move that back,
Mm.
it'll be like sifted stuff, and you'll see it in a second. That's all bulk material, bones and stuff like that.
That's on top, so the worms aren't really going to the on top of the soil to get stuff.
Right, because I'll be mixing everything, and it just always the bulk stuff always goes. So this is that one, the bin on the right. We harvested already. We put all our bulk material in there one time, so we filled it up to capacity, and that's
And
it.
what do you got? Leaves?
Yeah, we use leaves on top, which
Oh,
was
okay.
in this situation, it was detrimental to me because those leaves came from outside. So I brought in, that's I think the leaves brought in the springtails, and that's what messed up my bin. So be careful with what materials you put into your bin.
What's
But yeah,
the springtail? Is that a bacteria or a fungus?
they're an insect
Okay.
that breed like crazy. Like once they're in there, that's it. Like we tried to do everything. I had a bunch of different feed stuff that I would give them, and that's our log sheet right there. We would log everything in there. My
Right on
wife,
the bins.
yep. So that's the sifted material. You see it? That's the bulk material. We throw all the bulk stuff on the side, and we would use that to inoculate the bulk material. We used to inoculate our new bin. And this is the pre-composted bukashi feed. So remember, I tell you, I do one feed, boom, That's a giant ass Laurel bar right there.
Yeah,
Like
that's a brick.
great.
This
So
like fungal hyphae and stuff holding that together, it looks like.
seriously, man. So yeah, we would do one feed, boom. Um,
Is it smoking?
no, it's actually yeah, he's like, of course, that's why you cook the worms. No, I think it was like the debris, the leaves and stuff. It
Okay,
was like all the
just a little
debris,
dust.
Spores.
Yeah,
spores.
yeah, it could
You wear
be.
a mask when you do this stuff?
You should. I did some. I do most of the. Sometimes I did, but I like to.
Fauci says where to, don't forget.
Yeah. So as you guys see here, Harvest Day, we did it in an hour and 30 minutes, which was
Man,
record-breaking time for us.
80 pounds. Oh my God.
8 pounds in 2 months. That was our best harvest. Um, it's doable. Uh, and yeah, before we had that sifter, it took us, I gotta ask Yvette, but it took us like 6 hours or something like that. It was a whole day event.
But
But
you
we,
think like $6 a pound and you've got 80 pounds. I mean, you that's a good day's pay for your work,
yeah, man.
especially in an hour and a half compared to 5.
Yeah, look at that stuff. That's good, fine, sifted material. And then in there, you're gonna have, there's probably some worms in there. There's probably some eggs in there too.
You
I
should have
put,
charged more, man. You should have told
I
people
should
there's
have.
this is pre-inoculated.
For real. It was good stuff. I really do miss worm farming. It was just so much fun. Definitely want to get back. I have plans on getting back into it.
why don't you tell all the good folks? They know where to find Sam and I. So, um, and if they don't, well, just stick around for the next episode.
Go plug yourself real quick.
Yeah,
Eco.hustle on Instagram. I think it's the same on Facebook as well. We have a YouTube channel as well, which you could find. Actually, we have a link tree as well that you can find on our Instagram, and it has everything housed in there. Um, so yeah, Ego Hustle on all the platforms.
Nice. There's so much information on your Instagram. Sometimes I just go back to it for reference. Like I'll send people your videos because I mean, if you don't know Pablo, if you haven't learned tonight, Pablo is hugely analytical. All the information he talks about tonight, he goes even more in depth and shares all that for free on his platforms and just an amazing individual. Y'all definitely need to follow him and you can have his food waste feed your garden too.
yeah. Drop a comment down below. Let us know what you think of Pablo and this presentation today. I was blown away because I thought we were going to talk bokashi, and now someone that has a worm farm, I'm like, wow, this is I could, I got a problem. My problem is I got a wife, and so there's only so much I can do with my worm. She don't even like them in the garage, so
We didn't even
that's
get into that though. Pablo has you have your whole family contribute to the worm operation, right? Like I've seen, your
yeah,
kids and your wife, they help you
Yeah,
pick up
I love
worms.
it.
yeah.
Yvette did. She really did. She really liked it. I'm glad she did. Because some people just don't have a knack for that. I remember my mentor or one of them, they like their partner wasn't a big fan of it, so they had to keep things separate. But yeah, man, I really appreciate you guys having me on. I'm a big fan of composting, and I've had a lot of people help me through, the stages of it. So I love to, give information out there. And I do have a presentation on my YouTube channel where I go a little bit more in depth. Um, so, feel free to check that out. And I probably have some like downloads on my link tree as well, but feel free to reach out to me. You know, I'm I'm happy to share information.
Excellent. Yeah, and if you're in the Polk County area, and you're looking for some vermicompost, you can even get a 2-for-1 Sam and Pablo deal, you know.
Yeah, it's been a while, but I do include Pablo's vermicast into my projects when I have it. Um, and the Bokashis fed some of the customers' gardens. So if you want to reach out, get a consultation from Central Florida Abundance, y'all should know how to do it by now, but check out my links There's a link tree here on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. And I just want to say, Pablo, you're probably the only person I've talked to, and I heard you say it several times tonight, that would describe any worm as a cute creature. And so,
Yeah.
if y'all want to have that same mindset, go follow Pablo. Um, but if we want to see more of you, Mike, tell us again where we're gonna find you.
Um, Mike's in the garden, baby. You know where it's at. All everywhere and anywhere. And yeah, go check out Pablo's stuff. Go support Pablo. Yeah, I know you did a presentation at Natural Farm last year, and that might have even been the year before because I don't even know where we're at right now.
Yeah, yeah, time's flying, man. It's
But
pretty crazy.
but yeah,
I,
so
I hope I hope I was able to like inspire people to do it. I hope like I get real analytical, like
fired me.
yeah,
I'm inspired again.
go out and do it. Have fun. You're gonna have failures. I've literally had to toss out my last harvest. That video y'all seen, that was my last harvest because it was infested with a bunch of stuff. So, just go out there, do it, start small, start with Bukashi and then work your way up.
We're
Excellent.
gonna need you to come back and teach us about Bokashi then.
I'd love to.
All right, we'll see you on the next episode.
See y'all later.
Peace.